So this is the D&D revision book for level 2 algebra, and this is the first of the practice exams in that book. This is question 1b. The quadratic equation 10x squared plus bx minus 12 equals 0 has solutions, and we're told the two solutions, and we're asked to find the value of b. Okay, this is a question that does come up every few years, and so it's one that's worth having a strategy for. So the strategy that's easiest for a question like this is to actually think about what would this expression here, this equation I should say, look like if it was factorized. Okay, so let's think about it. So there'd be two brackets being multiplied. It's a quadratic expression, and it has an x squared term, and it has a constant negative 12, so it must have two brackets, and that would equal 0. And we'd know that there could be a number here times x and a number here times x, and then plus or minus a number, and then plus or minus some number. And we know that if that was expanded and simplified, we'd end up with this expression here. So what do we do with that information? Well, let's think about what would happen when we expanded it. Well, when you went first times first, so something x times something x, you'd get 10x squared, which means what? Well, it means that those numbers in there are either 10x and just 1x, which is x, right? Or they could be, what else could they be? They could be 5x and 2x. We're not sure yet which of those two it is. So it's either 10 and 1 or 5 and 2. What about when we get to the last times the last bit? So over here, we know that those two numbers must multiply to what? They must multiply to negative 12. So they could be what? They could be 12 and 1. We won't worry about the negative just yet. It could be 12 and 1, could be 6 and 2, or it could be 4 and 3. We don't know which ones yet. But we know something else. We know that x, these two solutions for x will make this thing equal 0. So if x is negative 4/5, then it will equal 0. If x is 3/2, then it will equal 0. So let's think about the first case. If an x value of negative 4/5 makes this whole thing equal 0, what does that mean? Well, it means that one of the brackets, so let's just pick, we'll just take the first bracket, doesn't matter which one, something x plus or minus something, for that to equal 0, x would equal negative 4/5. So if x equals negative 4/5. So what can we do with that information? Well, we know that we want these two numbers here. We want them to multiply to what? We want them to multiply to 10, don't we? This number and this number. So which of these two numbers, so if we look at negative 4/5 and we look at 3/2, do you notice anything there that might relate to the number 10? Well, it's the two denominators, right? If you multiply those, you get 10. So let's try sticking the denominator in front of x as the coefficient. So that's a 5. We make that a 5x, right? So that's a 5x, and that means this number here must be what? Must be 2x. Why? Because 5x times 2x equals 10x squared. So we need those two numbers to multiply to 10. Now if that's number's 5x plus or minus what equals 0. So we want x to be negative 4/5. So what do we do with that? Well, if we put a 4 in here, and we want it to be negative, so let's just try, if we went 5x plus 4, would that equal 0? Would that give us a solution of negative 4/5? Let's try it. So 5x plus 4 equals 0. Subtracting 4 off both sides, 5x equals negative 4. Dividing both sides by 5, sure enough, we get x equals negative 4/5. So that works, doesn't it, for that first solution? So what does that mean? Well, it means that one of the brackets has 5x plus 4 in it. Okay, what must the other bracket have? Well, we can work it out now because we know that the first two numbers multiply to 10x squared, but we also know the last two numbers have to multiply to what? To negative 12. So 4 times what is negative 12? Must be negative 3, right? So this must be minus 3. And let's just check and see if that works. Again, if we want that, we want that to equal 0, and we want it to equal 0 when x is 3 over 2. The other solution, right? So let's try that. So 2x minus 3 equals 0. We want to solve for x. We want it to be 3 over 2. Adding 3 to both sides, we get 2x equals 3. And now what? Dividing both sides by 2, we get x equals, sure enough, 3 over 2. Which is what we wanted, so that works as well. And notice how in the second set of brackets, the 3, the sign is reversed, but that's the constant, and the 2 is the coefficient of x squared. And in the first set of brackets, the same thing. The sign gets reversed, so the negative 4 means that the 4 is a constant, and the 5 means that the 5 is the coefficient of x. Okay, just pause the video and check you're clear on what we've done so far. Okay, now we've been asked to find what b is, so how do we do that? Well, of course, we expand these brackets out, and if we expand them out, we'll be able to see what number goes where b is in the expanded version, because this equation is an expanded form, isn't it? So if we use FOIL, first times the first equals 10x squared, right? Outer times outer, 5x times negative 3, that's going to be minus 15x. Inner times inner, 4 times 2x, so that's plus 8x. And last times last, 4 times negative 3, we already know is negative 12. And then collecting the like terms, we get 10x squared minus what? Minus 7x minus 12, and we know that all equals 0. So, what number is where the b is? Well, it's negative 7, isn't it? So, therefore, b is negative 7. And that's our solution. And that was a merit question, that one. So, next one. If 1 over x plus 1 minus 2 over 3x equals k over 6x, x squared minus 1 brackets, find an expression for k. So what should we do first? Pause the video and have a think about it, have a go at it. See how far you get. Have a hit play once you've got as far as you can, once you think you've solved it. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I can see that I want the expression to be 4k, so I want k on its own. So how can I do that? Well, the easiest way is if I multiply both sides by the denominator of k, right? So I'm going to set it up for a start. I'm actually going to set it up so k is on the left. So k over 6x, x squared minus 1 equals 1 over x plus 1 minus 2 over 3x. So if I multiply both sides by the denominator, let's see what happens. So I get k equals, so it's going to be it's going to be 6x x squared minus 1 times all of that, 1 over x plus 1 minus 2 over 3x. Now the problem is, I need to simplify this, right? And I've got, here in the brackets, I've got two fractions with different denominators. So, how can I fix that? Well, I need to get them over the same thing. First one's over x plus 1, second one's over 3x. And x plus 1, that doesn't go into 3x as far as we know. So, let's multiply them by each other. So what we're going to do is we're going to rewrite this out. Whoops. And k equals 6x over x squared minus 1. That part hasn't changed. And this time what I want to do is I want to multiply, so the first fraction is going to be, the top and the bottom are going to be multiplied by 3x. So times 3x. And the second fraction, the top and the bottom are going to be multiplied by x squared plus 1. Oh, sorry, x plus 1. So cross multiply, some people call it. Okay, what does that look like when we simplify it? Let's have a go. So x squared minus 1, this is going to be, now it's all going to be over a common denominator of 3x, x plus 1. And the numerator is just going to be what? It's going to be 3x. Take away 2x. Now I've got to be careful when I expand out this bracket, because that's a negative in front of the 2, isn't it? So that's going to become minus 2. Can I simplify that? I sure can. Actually, I'll just go over here. My writing's a bit bigger on this device. So k equals, so I've got 6x, x squared minus 1, it's a 1. Then I've got, 3x minus 2x, that's just x, isn't it? So it's x minus 2, collecting my like terms, and the denominator is 3x, x plus 1. Okay, now this is algebra. I'm going to be, this mustn't be something for me yet. So let's think about how can we simplify this. What can still be factorized here? And I want you to pause the video and I want you to think about this. What can still be factorized here that we haven't factorized yet? This can. What is it? It's a difference of two squares. So x squared is a square number, right? Because it's x squared. And when we subtract 1, 1 is also a squared number because it's 1 squared. So that can be rewritten as what? X plus 1, x minus 1. So let's try that. Because I know that there's an x plus 1 on the bottom, so that's going to help me simplify this by cancelling those out, isn't it? So k equals 6x, x plus 1, x minus 1, and then x minus 2, over 3x, x plus 1. Now, what cancels out? Well, the x plus 1 terms now cancel out. Also, I've got 6x divided by 3x. So what's that? How many 3x's and 6x? Well, that's just 2, isn't it? And so I'm left with k equals 2 x minus 1 x minus 2. And I could expand that if I wanted to, but there's no need. It's not going to make it any simpler. The instructions were to put it in simplest form. So let's see if that was the same answer they got. This device doesn't let me pause it very easily. Here we go. And yeah, same answer as them. So 2 x minus 1 x minus 2. And that question was worth, let's have a look. It was worth merit as well. Okay, I'll do a new video for the next one.